The battlefield in Eastern Europe has shifted once again, and tonight the war takes on a darker, deadlier, and more decisive form. Explosions roar across Russia's critical energy infrastructure, Ukrainian precision strikes penetrate deeper than ever before, and the Kremlin faces a crisis so severe that even its own soldiers are surrendering rather than fighting. The tide of this war is turning, and the evidence is written in fire, blood, and steel. Russia's military machine is bleeding at a pace that defies belief. The Kremlin now sits on more than 176,000 personnel losses, with nearly 1,000 casualties in just the past 24 hours. The battlefield toll is no longer an abstract number. It represents an army staggering under pressure, losing more soldiers in a single day than entire battalions can hold. And hardware tells a similar story. Russia just lost 3 armored personnel vehicles, 40 artillery systems, an air defense battery, and over 3,300 extended-range munitions in the past day. The attrition rate is staggering, and the Kremlin's ability to replace these losses grows weaker by the week. But here's the twist. Ukraine is not just defending. It is arming itself with the tools to strike harder, further, and faster than ever before. The U.S. has approved a weapons package worth $850 million, funded heavily through European investments, and at its heart lies a missile system designed with Ukraine in mind. These rams, air-launched, precision-guided cruise missiles, boast a range of up to 450 kilometers. They carry a 500-pound warhead, cost just $330,000 per unit, and are built for mass production, with the U.S. capable of producing 500 per year. That means Ukraine could soon field 30 to 50 of these missiles every single month. Why does this matter? Because these missiles are purpose-built to do what other Western systems have only done in limited fashion: strike Russian command centers, logistics hubs, ammunition depots, ports in Crimea, and even naval vessels themselves. They fly low, resist electronic warfare, and strike with terrifying precision. For Moscow, already haunted by the impact of Neptune and Flamingo missiles, the psychological blow is devastating. Just as Russia tries to stall peace talks, Ukraine demonstrates it can take the war to Russia's heartland. On Ukraine's Independence Day, drones struck Russia's Baltic export hub at Luga near St. Petersburg. This was no minor attack. The strike ignited fires at the Novatek gas processing complex, the beating heart of Russia's Baltic gas chemical cluster. That facility processes 45 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually, producing 13 million tons of LNG for export. In other words, one of the largest energy complexes in Europe has just been hit 880 kilometers from Ukrainian soil. The damage wasn't symbolic. The strike targeted the cryogenic gas fractionation plant, the unit that converts raw gas into high-value export products. Flames consumed it while Moscow claimed to have shot down 10 drones, but the smoke rising above the terminal told the real story. Russia's war economy is burning. The Luga terminal wasn't alone. Ukrainian drones struck the Syzran oil refinery in Samara, a site that processes nearly 9 million tons of crude per year. While Russian officials denied extensive damage, reports confirmed disruptions and smoke rising from the facility. Meanwhile, another blaze still rages at the Novoshakhtinsk oil refinery in Rostov. Days after an attack, the fire spreads uncontrollably. Russian emergency crews have failed to contain it. For a regime so dependent on oil and gas exports to fund its war, this is nothing short of catastrophic. And Ukraine isn't letting up. Its strategy has shifted from single-hit raids to sustained campaigns, targeting the same facilities repeatedly to ensure they cannot be repaired. Each strike pulls another thread from Russia's already strained economy. The strikes could not have come at a worse time for Moscow. Russia is already spiraling into a fuel crisis. Across the Far East, gasoline rationing is becoming common. In Primorsky Krai, drivers wait in 100 car-long lines for a single tank of fuel. In Magadan, rationing is so severe that citizens are receiving just 1 bucket of diesel per person. Fuel prices are exploding. 95-octane gasoline now costs $45 per gallon. Diesel has skyrocketed to $360 per gallon. And all of this in a country where the average monthly salary is only around $950. Prices for automotive fuel have risen 38% this year alone, and the crisis deepens each week. Russia is facing its own version of the 1973 oil shock. But unlike the US back then, it cannot refine enough oil to meet its own needs, and Ukraine is making sure it never will. Ukraine isn't just targeting energy. Its forces are systematically crippling Russia's transport and logistics. A fire erupted at a railway traction substation in Rostov, disrupting the North Caucasus Railway, an artery critical for moving troops and supplies. Partisan groups have also joined the fight, with one claiming responsibility for blowing up a railway transformer in Karachay-Cherkessia, deep inside Russia. Their message was clear. More Russians are resisting the war, and sabotage will spread. Ukraine's drones even carried out psychological operations. On Independence Day, the Ukrainian rugby team drone battalion raised national flags over villages in Russia's Kursk region, a region with historic ties to Ukraine. The symbolism could not be clearer. Russia cannot even secure its own borders. While Russia struggles on the home front, Ukraine is making battlefield gains. In Andriivka, Ukrainian forces advanced nearly 2 kilometers north, tightening the noose around Russian positions. In Luhansk, they liberated the village of Rakivka, a settlement Russia had claimed months ago. Nearby, Novomykolaiivka also fell back under Ukrainian control. Perhaps most dramatically, Ukrainian troops entered the village of Min, just 4 kilometers from the front line. Both Ukrainian and Russian sources confirm the counterattack, with fighting still raging inside the settlement. If Ukraine consolidates this gain, Russia risks losing control over 150 square kilometers of territory. Russian soldiers are beginning to crack. One occupier fighting near Pokrovsk recorded a video for his wife, saying only he and one comrade had survived from their unit. Their commander ordered them not to retreat, threatening to kill them if they disobeyed. Instead, they dropped their rifles, turned off their radios, and surrendered to Ukrainian forces. For many, captivity now looks safer than serving Putin. Ukraine's FPV drones are wreaking havoc. They've destroyed motorcycles, trucks, buggies, and even a fleet of Russian self-propelled howitzers. One recent strike eliminated the 12th and final Mista S howitzer from a shipment sent all the way from Russia's Far East earlier this year. Moscow's costly reinforcements are being erased piece by piece. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops of the 5th Motorized Rifle Brigade crushed a Russian breakthrough attempt in the Dnipro region, capturing 16 Russian soldiers. Each failed advance bleeds Russia of manpower and morale. But perhaps the clearest sign of Moscow's desperation comes from the Kremlin itself. Vladimir Putin has ordered his defense ministry to train soldiers to use shotguns against Ukrainian drones. Yes, shotguns. The very weapon hunters use for birds. On paper, it sounds like an improvisation. In reality, it's an admission of weakness. Shotguns are effective only at very close range, when a drone has already breached defenses. Modern FPV drones fly too fast and too high, making shotguns unreliable and dangerous as a primary defense. Ukraine does use shotguns occasionally as a last resort, but it has invested far more in electronic warfare systems and jamming technologies, which are exponentially more effective. Russia's shotgun plan is little more than a band-aid over a battlefield hemorrhage. Taken together, these developments paint a grim picture for the Kremlin. Ukraine is advancing not only on the ground but in the skies and deep into Russia's own territory. The strikes on energy hubs, refineries, and rail lines are not random. They are part of a deliberate strategy to strangle Russia's war economy. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces grow stronger, better armed, and more experienced with each passing week. The arrival of RAM missiles could shift the balance even further, giving Kyiv the ability to strike naval fleets, logistics hubs, and occupied territories with precision and regularity. Russia, on the other hand, is burning through its manpower, losing refineries it cannot replace, facing a fuel crisis reminiscent of the 1970s, and improvising shotgun training as a defense against advanced drones. The war has reached a turning point. Each refinery fire, each captured soldier, each liberated village is another step toward a reality that Moscow cannot escape. Its grip on Ukraine is slipping, and the war it started is coming home.